Hello, Feuzion. My name is Alex Feuz, and you are watching another live Fusion News episode on this great February 8th, 2017, Wednesday. It's Hump Day, and I'm joined right now by Lee Schechter, Bleacher Report, Patriots reporter. We got a lot of talk about tonight. So, Lee, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I mean, that game was the most incredible game I've ever seen, and seeing Patriots win was also, quite a bit special.
Yeah, for sure. Now, of course, you cover the Patriots for Bleacher Report. Now, going into halftime, were you ready to write an article for Bleacher Report saying, how the Patriots, weren't the Patriots that night? Without this hope that potentially the Patriots could come back and the greatest comeback of sports, which it eventually did happen. So, what was going through your mind at halftime?
At halftime, I actually did have a little bit of hope, but I lost most of that. Well, pretty much the hope was great because they got the 3-and-out coming out of halftime, and then right after that, Edelman has a great return. And you're thinking, oh, the Patriots are back. We're going to have ourselves a game, and then they stall out, and the Falcons march right back down the field and score and go up 28-3. So it was at the 28-3 point that I was ready to call it quits and say that this game was definitely over. But lo and behold, that was not the case.
Yeah, for sure. And what was the turning point of this game for you? Do you think it was that Edelman catch with about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game? What was that big moment in that game that really put towards the momentum for the Patriots to come back and make this incredible comeback, which they did?
I really think there were three main turning points, and one of them is probably a little more subtle than most would think. But I'd say that first scoring drive that they had in the second half after Atlanta scored, taking the time and marching down the field was actually really important to them because it ended up gassing the Falcons defense. They got it, they got some nice calls, holding calls there to keep the drive alive. It was a long, methodical drive. It exposed some things that they could then use the rest of the game against the Falcons, barring the time that they then needed to maximize. So I think that was really key, just getting a score and chipping away at the defense, wearing them out later on. The other big play for me was actually the first 2-point conversion when James White took the direct snap. That was iconic for me because I remember when Kevin Falk did that, and that's a play out of the old Patriots playbooks that I think it just probably brought back memories of the team just winning these close battles and knowing, hey, we're in this, guys, we can do this. And then absolutely, like you said, I mean, Edelman catch, once that happened, that was the culmination of every single play that had happened against Mario Manningham's catch, obviously David Tyree's catch, Jermaine Kearse. These catches that are improbable and never, ever happen always happen against the Patriots in these Super Bowls, and the Patriots finally got their moment, and Edelman won. That set them over the edge. Once they did that, they went down the field. In OT, you just kind of knew that at that point it was theirs for the taking.
Yeah, for sure. Now, of course, the Falcons, do you think they should have ran that ball instead of passing it? And that really did not get them in field goal range, which, of course, if the Falcons did score a field goal, then they would have won the game and, would have taken the Patriots two more scoring, drives, and that could not have been done with that short amount of time. So do you think, what was a big mistake by the Falcons in that second half of the game that really put towards the momentum for the Patriots to go on and make that incredible comeback in overtime?
Yeah, I mean, they obviously needed to run the football there. When you look back, it's like, how could you not run the football? And as we learned with the Seahawks, and Dan Quinn should know firsthand, when you throw against them in those clutch situations, bad things can happen. I'm a little surprised they didn't stick with the run, at least chip off a little bit of time. The holding call was killer that then set them out of field goal range. At the very least, if you're running, you're taking time off that clock. And Patriots probably wouldn't have had enough time to really go down the field. I think that the biggest problem on that, though, wasn't so much the pass call because the Patriots were already loading the box because they knew that the Falcons were going to run. And other than Devontae Freeman's monster, 40-yard run early in the game, he wasn't as effective as that 7-yard per carry average really did show. And the Patriots were selling out the run. They were going to make sure that if you beat us, you got to do something special. And I don't think the play call for a pass is really as bad as everyone's making it out to be. I think the biggest problem is, and as I was watching the game, I turned to one of my friends and I said, why is Devontae Freeman lined up in that weird, like, tight end, not really running back spot? Because Matt Ryan was in, a full shotgun. And he didn't even attempt to run around. He didn't chip. He just totally blew his block. He knew that Dante was coming around the edge and didn't do anything about it. And they kind of just let it happen. They let Dante Hightower get to Matt Ryan, and that was, just the major turning point.
Yeah, for sure. And, this was a great game. But also now we have this resurrected conversation about, is Tom Brady the greatest quarterback of all time? Is Bill Belichick the greatest coach of all time? Or are the New England Patriots the greatest team franchise of all time? And I have to ask you, do you think those three questions, without question, are true? Do you think Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time? Do you feel Bill Belichick is the greatest coach of all time? And do you feel the New England Patriots are the greatest NFL franchise of all time?
I don't see how you can not say Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. I think that people like to say he got lucky for a lot of this, but you don't get to the Super Bowl 7 times and win 5 of them off of pure luck. He very easily could be 7-0 in Super Bowls. He could have lost more Super Bowls. But Super Bowls are always usually close games. He's done such amazing things as a whole throughout his career. The stats keep piling up, the success. He has, 15 more wins than the next quarterback-coach combination, which brings me to Belichick. Belichick is also greatest coach I've ever seen. I can't speak for like Vince Lombardi many years before me and some of those coaches. But Belichick's ability to treat it like a business, to always live and breathe football is so important. Everybody's going in the same direction on that team. There's no one who's pushing against the grains. It's all football, all Patriots football. He draws up amazing game plans. His record speaks for itself. Absolutely amazing. The interesting one that you bring up, though, is, are they the greatest franchise of all time now? Obviously, the answer is yes, if you look at in the years since Kraft took over ownership of the team, because people forget, and this was a franchise that could have moved to St. Louis or anywhere. They were in a rough spot, and Kraft comes in, and they made the Super Bowl against the Packers that they lost. But then Pete Carroll came in, they struggled a bit, and then Bill Belichick took off. I'd say they are close to the greatest franchise of all time right now, but the 40 years prior were not great as a whole. A lot of really bad teams. So I feel like the consistency of the Packers, and I know the Bears have struggled lately, but the Bears and the Steelers, they have only had 3 coaches, which speaks to their success too. So I think they're still outside, because I look at consistency throughout an entire span of an organization before I'd say that they're the greatest franchise, but they're well on their way.
Yeah, for sure. And, now the celebration process is basically over. The parade was yesterday. Now, did you have the chance to attend that parade yesterday or no?
I was actually not at the parade, but I knew quite a few people who were there.
Mm-hmm. So, now that celebration process is over, now we get to talk about the NFL offseason now. And with Hightower, Butler, and Bennett, pretty much all free agents, do you see, the Patriots re-signing these 3 guys, or do you think it's going to be, hard to get all 3 of them back for next season?
Butler has to be a priority. He's going to get that. He's an RFA, so he's going to get that first-round tender. They're going to give him money. There's no way he's going anywhere. He's also still emerging. He's one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. The interesting ones there become Hightower and Bennett. Hightower, supposedly the offer was over $10 million already. I think that's a lot, even though he's a very good player. He's had his injuries. The fact that he doesn't need surgery right now is a good sign to his longevity. He's a young player. He's smart. He's the quarterback in the defense. I would try as best as they can to sign him because he's so important to that defense. But when the numbers do get a little bit crazy, it just gets to a point where it's not really worth it. So I honestly think the odds of signing that guy right now are a little lower than where I would have placed them maybe a month or two ago. Bennett wants to stay with the Patriots. There's no doubt about it. That guy loves it. They need insurance for Gronk. He can make a lot of money on the open market. He's a guy who probably wants to make a lot of money on the open market and cash in, but I think if they prioritize him fairly high and come in with a pretty decent offer, he was banged up most of the year, but still a solid contributor and keep being used more in that offense too.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see what happens this offseason and really what happens going forward with the New England Patriots. And of course, I have to ask about the upstate New York native Dion Lewis. He got hurt at the end of that Super Bowl game, and we aren't really sure. I know it was a hamstring injury. Now, do you know anything about Dion Lewis? I know a lot of people were worried that he could have possibly hurt his knee again, which is something, he's had a lot of knee problems in the past. So do you have an update on Dion Lewis's injury update for us, or do we not know exactly, how he's going to progress, in the offseason?
Yeah, that was a really scary injury. My heart went out to him right away because we all remember when he tore his ACL and just the pain that was on his face, not of just the injury, the pain of not being out on the field with his teammates. I immediately thought it was his Achilles with the way that he awkwardly stepped. We learned it was a hamstring. I don't think it's anything to be concerned about going forward. He's obviously a little bit of a fragile guy, but it seemed to be just more cramps of some variety. I don't think there's much concern there. And for the Patriots' sake, they hope that there isn't because they're still undefeated when this guy plays and he's suited up. 17-0 now, I believe is the stat now. So he's an amazing player. Keep wishing the best for him. I think he's going to be A-okay, and he's a very cheap, solid option in the backfield, and they need a guy like that. And him alongside James White is a great tandem to have for your receiving and even on the ground too, between tackles a little bit.
So that's good news for him as well, and we hope that he gets better over the offseason and that injury isn't too serious and he won't miss anything major next season. And now, Lee, the final question before we wrap up this Feuzion News interview: do you see this New England Patriots team potentially going deep into the playoff next year?
I absolutely do. When Tom Brady's your quarterback and you got Julian Edelman out there, and they have a pretty good offensive line it might have a little bit of turnover, but good offensive line, good young core of the defense with some new guys that started to emerge. They need to sign some players. I think that's going to be key, but the two factors I look at are the AFC doesn't have a lot of great teams right now. Obviously, the Raiders might have been a bigger threat if Derek Carr was around. They're still on the rise. I don't think the Steelers are quite as good as everyone thinks because they're built on their big three guys, even though Martavis Bryant could possibly be returning. The Broncos are going to be off because they don't have a quarterback, and that offense is kind of a mess. And some of these other teams are still working their way up. The Patriots are going to win the AFC East. They're probably going to get a first-round bye again. That sets them up really well, and that would just be amazing. I mean, to think about the what-ifs, if Brady ends up winning another Super Bowl next year, you're talking about two separate dynasties where they win 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. In the same fashion, too, it'd be, win one, lose, don't make it, win 2 more would be incredible because they're 10 years apart. That would be unheard of. And for anyone who has any doubts about Brady not being the greatest quarterback, I mean, if he does that, you're just don't even try anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't even realize how you could still make the argument that Tom Brady's not the greatest quarterback. And the people that are on Twitter saying Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback of all time, they're probably living under a rock. Okay.
Where are the rings? Where's all the rings? Where are the accolades? They're not there. You can say some guy's a great quarterback in one season, but the consistency and the longevity of Brady throughout his whole career, hands down, he's the greatest.
Okay, Lee, I want to say thank you for coming on this Feuzion News episode tonight. And where can the fans follow you on Twitter and read your articles about the Patriots?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is my name. It's Lee Schechter. Last name spelled Schechter. I've been doing great articles all season for Bleacher Report, but you can also I pop up on podcasts all over the place. If you follow my Twitter, you'll see everything that I'm doing. So that's the best way to find me.
Okay, great. Thank you again, Lee, for coming on tonight. Feuz Nation will be back here with some more Fusion News shows tomorrow. Be sure to watch them and go back and watch my episode from earlier tonight. Great interview. You don't want to miss that. Thank you, Feuz Nation, for watching this Fusion News episode. I will see you tomorrow. Be kind to one another.